welcome to our YouTube channel. Today we will be discussing about the Iran nuclear deal in detail. So let's start. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, also known as the Iran Nuclear Agreement, is a historic agreement that was reached between Iran and several superpowers, including the United States, in July 2015. In accordance with its terms, Iran consented to dismantle a large portion of its nuclear program and permit more thorough international inspections of its facilities in exchange for sanctions relief worth billions of dollars. Since President Trump withdrew the U.S. in 2018 and reinstated banking and oil sanctions, the deal has been collapsed already. Renewed Iran nuclear deal. After 16 months of hard talks, Iran and the U.S. are getting closer to a deal on restoring their 2015 nuclear deal. However, everything could depend on what happens in the next few days. All eyes are now on Washington, which is getting ready to send its response to Iran's written comments on a final text proposed by the European Union at the end of talks in Vienna earlier this month. Iran seems to be more hopeful than it has been in years about reaching a deal with the US and other countries on a new version of the 2015 nuclear deal. Mohammad Morandi, a member of Iran's negotiating team, said that we're closer than we've ever been to reaching an agreement and that the remaining issues are not very hard to solve. And the final text proposal for the deal that the European Union sent to the US last week has been approved by the US, which says it's ready to quickly seal the deal if Iran accepts it. Still, there are problems with saving the Obama-era deal that lifted sanctions on Iran in exchange for limits on its nuclear program. As a response to the EU's proposal, Iran's negotiators brought up the problems that still needed to be solved. And the stakes are high. As time goes on, Iran makes more progress in developing its nuclear technology, far beyond what the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, and the original signatories of the 2015 deal say is acceptable. That could lead to a full-scale war in the Middle East, because Israel has said it will go to war with Iran if it gets nuclear weapons. In the spring of 2021, Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, said of Iran, "Only countries that make bombs get to this level of nuclear enrichment." With a new nuclear deal, the US and the other signatories, France, the UK, Germany, China, and Russia, known as the P5+1, hope to stop the nuclear program and avoid what many people say could be a nuclear weapons crisis. Iran says its goals are peaceful and that what it is doing is within its sovereign rights. 3 major sticking points. There are still 3 main sticking points. Iran wants the Biden administration to take its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps off the list of groups that are considered terrorists. So far, Washington has been unwilling to do this. It also wants a promise that the deal will be binding no matter who is in charge of the United States in the future. Biden can't legally promise that, and the fact is that any deal could be cancelled by another administration, just like former President Donald Trump did. The third thing is that the IAEA has been looking into traces of uranium that were found at 3 undeclared nuclear sites in Iran several years ago. Tehran wants it to be shut down, but the agency and Western governments are against this. The US didn't seem to have much patience with Tehran's demands. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said this week that the only way to achieve a mutual return to compliance with the JCPOA is for Iran to drop further unacceptable demands that go beyond the scope of the JCPOA. "We have long thought that these requests are not necessary." Difficult balancing act. The ball is in Biden's court, declared Trita Parsi, executive vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. The United States wants to provide a response that will not be a complete acceptance of what the Iranians have proposed but will also not allow the Iranians to make further changes. If this goes on for too long, it will get too close to the midterm elections, which will greatly irritate Biden's own allies in Congress. This balancing act is challenging. He said that some of the changes Iran asked to be made to the text are seen as good for Europe as well because they protect European companies that invest or trade with Iran. In the end, giving guarantees that the US won't leave the agreement a second time makes the agreement stronger, he said. He also said that these changes wouldn't have been needed if the US hadn't left the agreement in the first place. He said that this shows the cost the US put on itself by leaving the JCPOA. The changes have upset both inside and outside the US those who oppose the deal. They say the agreement isn't longer, stronger, and broader as Biden predicted. US senators have criticized the talks in recent days. National Security Council denies U.S. concessions to Iran. Israel is the biggest opponent of the nuclear deal, and talks with Israeli officials may be why the U.S. has been slow to respond. Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid has warned the White House and Macron against restoring the JCPOA. Keeping the deal would be weak, he said. Now or never situation. The Islamic Republic's government has accelerated nuclear development in the time since Trump withdrew the U.S. from the agreement in May 2018 and reimposed strict sanctions on Iran. Its enriched uranium stockpile is now 60% enriched, which is the highest level ever and a significant increase from the 3.67% cap imposed by the 2015 agreement, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or JCPOA. 90% is the minimum level needed to create a bomb. Between 2% and 3% of commercial enrichment is used for energy purposes. Additionally, it has reduced IAEA monitoring access to its nuclear sites. A senior fellow at the Arab Gulf states in Washington, Hussein Ibish, told CNBC that the restoration of the deal is approaching a now or never situation. We don't have much time to waste and currently have the most logical plan possible for returning to the 2015 agreement. Therefore, either it will occur soon or it won't, at least in terms of containing Iran's nuclear ambitions, and it will become harder and less important. There is still a great deal of uncertainty, which is purposefully part of Iran's strategy, according to Sanam Vakil, Deputy Director of Chatham House's Middle East and North Africa program in the UK. The possibility of a deal is being held out as leverage by the Iranians, who are also trying to obtain last-minute concessions and guarantees from the IAEA and the P5+1, according to her. They are both at a standstill. And they're both actually in a weaker position, Vakil said, pointing out the Biden administration's worries about Iran's nuclear capability if no deal is reached, its desire to achieve a foreign policy win before the midterm elections in November, and Iran's struggling economy that is in desperate need of sanctions relief. But, she continued, Iran is renowned for its strategic patience, waiting until they can extract the most concessions from the other side. No guarantee a deal will last. Biden is currently the target of scathing criticism from political rivals who are vehemently opposed to any deal with Iran. Behnam Ben Tailblue, a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, said that Tehran uses every attempt to obtain a guarantee as an opportunity to make Washington quarrel with one another and try to provide more in exchange for less. In light of the above, the only reason Iran might consent to a deal like the JCPOA is to strengthen its economy in preparation for another shift in American policy after 2024. In fact, many wonder why Iran should even consider a deal that the incoming U.S. administration might rip up. Iran would regain access to its estimated well over $100 billion in foreign reserves through this agreement, according to Vakil. She explained that the liquidity injection into the Iranian economy will help in infinite ways from investment to paying government wages to supply chain challenges. Therefore, even if this agreement only lasts for 2 years as many believe, it averts a nuclear crisis and provides a 2-year reprieve. Ben Tailblue says Tehran now controls these negotiations due to its recent nuclear decisions. By increasing its nuclear footprint while reducing the scope of the inspections and monitoring system, the regime appears to have found a winning formula. Some analysts claim that the US and Iran have an interest in continuing the negotiations because the alternative would be worse for both parties. Ali Vaiz, Iran project director at the International Crisis Group, said those who argued no deal is better than the restored JCPOA unleashed Iran's nuclear program and failed to produce a better alternative. Right now, the options are to restore a deal that would limit Iran's nuclear program, give Iran a bomb, or bomb Iran. Hope you enjoyed the video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.